Hi, today we're going to fix the rear window regulator on this Freelander one. It's a fairly common problem with cables snapping, same with electric windows in the doors. We have the repair kit here, 10 UK pounds from eBay. I'll put links in the description. So the window at the moment has been jammed shut with a piece of wood jammed underneath the glass to get the glass to fit under the top cover to keep it waterproof. So to open the door, we have got to get inside the car and pull that piece of wood out. So you can see the inside trim has been taken off. I'll show you how you do that in a minute. And here's the piece of wood. I just need to unwedge, and we can release the window down slowly. Somebody's done a pretty bodgy repair, or attempted repair, on this window. So the motor's been detached already. So that's the window held in a better position using the same wooden stick just to jam it underneath there. See that crosses under. Here's the bottom of the window, and that'll keep it held in place. And it's a good height to get to these bolts here to undo the clamps that clamp onto the window pane and connect them to the guides. So there's one there and one, and the other side over there. Probably something like 10 or 11mm bolts, so you need a socket set. So before we start, I'll just show you how that door cover comes off. If you look underneath it, this one didn't have the bolts because of the previous botched repair, but see these positions here, one here, and so on, where the holes are, one there, and a clip at the bottom. Obviously those bolts would need to be removed. And then you've got these stays, these little clips here, and 3 at the bottom, and 3 the other side. Basically you need to give the cover a very sharp pull. So it's obviously attached like that. Grab hold of it to the right hand side, give it a sharp yank, and then you'll be able to pull these clips out and the whole thing will just come off. Okay, so we've got the clamp bolt undone, these 2 bolts undone. We should be able to just wiggle it out now, hopefully. Let's see what we can do. Alright, so we've got this bottom one out. Come. Nearly released. We've just got this electrical cable to take it off, held on by a cable clip. So that's one side out. We now have to do the other side. So this time we'll probably end up getting in the way of the camera, but as a reminder, the 2 nuts at the top and one, where my finger is, down it, and then undo the window clamp, and then the whole mechanism lifts out of the window. So this would normally be a continuous loop, but one bit of cable has been cut off. Although you can take out these slides with the window just pushed up, it is actually easier to completely remove the window out of the top. You just got to unplug the heater elements from the right hand side at the bottom of the window pane, and then maneuver it out, and we can completely remove it, put that to one side. Right, to re-thread the motor with the new cable, we're going to need to undo these screws around here, for which you need a T25 star-shaped piece. You get a set of bits like that on eBay and the like. Right, it's quite useful to lay out the old cables before we change over to the new one, so you see roughly how they go. This is made a little bit more difficult on this job because one of the cables was missing, so the one that goes from here into the motor. I believe this is the setup. So now we can proceed to swap them over. So you can see each cable crosses over, goes in this little slot here, like so. And the cables, if they start getting tight, what you can do is, if you can't get them on the bobbin directly, then you can put them over this outer part of the bobbin and turn it around with a screwdriver. Basically that cam on it forces it onto the correct slot on the roller bobbin there. Here we've got all of the new cables roughly in position, and I've undone these star-shaped bolts for taking off the motor cover, and as you can see, the old cable made a right mess of the insides, so it's probably just as well that a new bobbin comes with the cable kit. Just lever that old bobbin out. It should, I think, just lift up. Right, that's that. Now you might want to check that the motor's operating correctly. Obviously these further screws come off to get to the gear mechanism underneath, which might need greasing up. To test whether the motor's operating, put it back in the car, see if it actually runs. If it's not, then they can be dismantled and cleaned up. See my other video on fixing the front electric windows on Freelander 1, which is on my channel, and there I go into taking all this off, cleaning up the commutator and fixing any gearing issues. So when assembling these, you can see the end of the fitting's got a bit of a horseshoe shape, flat edge on one side, and that goes basically on the top where the metal is, because the metal is flat where the cover goes on. The dome side of this this bobbin goes down on that way, obviously onto the gear. You need to do the top cable first, because that is coming in from the bottom in this bit here. Spring goes on there. This little plastic clip also has to go on. Pull the cable out and then feed it into this slot and start feeding it round the bobbin and the cable guide on it. Notice that this adjuster has got this clamp piece of plastic over the end. When we finally finished assembling all, we can release that. I don't know whether you can see that, hopefully you can. What you've got to do is wind it like this, with the top half getting the right position and the right amount of cable length on it, so it just pops into that top slot like so. We'll oil it and lubricate it later, so if you can see that, hopefully you can. There you go. See over in the corner there, I've taken the cable off one of the bobbins to give it a little bit more slack in the cabling system, because we can tighten that at the end. This one on. That. And that one. Tricky is trying to keep that cable tight. So I'm going to make sure all the cables are neatly in place there. These are roughly fitted. That's in that sort of position. Cable's slack over here. And what we need to do before we tighten it is put some grease inside that, using a bit of Moly Grease, but probably anything would do. Just push it into the bobbin. Stops it getting rusty as well. Later on we'll put plenty of oil on the cable as well. That should be enough to hold it in place while we try and tighten up this cable. Alright, I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. Just taking a bit of my glove off. But we managed to get it on the outer part of the bobbin. Spring is compressed, so everything is starting to tighten up. And now what what we have to do is turn this bobbin round. A screwdriver is good for that, such that it then forces the cable onto the main track of this little wheel. Quite difficult actually. There's a lot of tension on it, so probably it would help to push down on that spring at the same time. Let's try that. There we go. Probably didn't see that on the camera, but turning that round has persuaded the cable to go in the proper slot on its wheel. That is now tensioned nicely. Now we can then release this tensioner as well. See, so that's loose there. So if that wants to come out, it can, if the cable stretches. So that is everything in position. Right, to test it off the car, then you can do it with some wiring and a car battery. And the outermost two connectors, there's 6 connectors on this motor. The top 2 are the power to the motor. The other 2, well, must be some sort of sensor or something. So the other 4 must be sensors. So what you can do, if you get a couple of cables, you just have to hold them onto the connectors like so, and you can see that they do actually move up and down. Try not to short a cable like I've just done. So you can see they do operate all the way to the end. Give the cable a good dosing of oil. Stop it rusting in the future. While you're at it, do the spindles, these little wheels. You could use grease on here if you prefer. Oil's a bit more effective at stopping them rusting there. That should be it. So the other way of testing it, of course, is to plug it back in the car. But if it doesn't work, you've got to take it off again. That's the disadvantage of that. So for reassembling, I'm not sure it matters which way or which end goes in first. We can do roughly the right hand side, I guess. Let's see. Now we've got the window glass completely removed. Makes it a fraction easier perhaps. That's that one roughly in. Looks like that plastic clips on that rail. I don't think it can. I think that's just for transporting them as separate pieces. Yes, indeed, that plastic bit doesn't fit on the rail. Actually stands back about 1 inch back from it. So that's it now fitted. Let's do up some bolts and plug the motor in. What we've got to do is align the clamps on the window to make sure the window is centralised left and right and is horizontal. So that's the window reassembled, and the electric window sliders reassembled. It's quite difficult to get the bolts in the right position so you can do them up. The window has to go all the way up before it'll come halfway down, and it'll only do that once the door's shut, so you have to get somebody to operate the switch while sitting in the car. Right, one thing to watch for, and there's a little bit of a weakness, is to watch that this piece of plastic here, this is an adjuster to take out the slack, and there's a ratchet mechanism on it to stop it going back in again. If I show you on the old one, see those yellow teeth that catch on an inner set of teeth that allow it to come out but not go in again. I've noticed when testing the door that sometimes the end can go back in. Now I've given it a good pull out, and at the moment it seems to have latched on those ratchet teeth, but I think it is a little bit of a weakness. The solution at the moment was just to give it a good pull, stretch against the cable. You can test whether it works properly with the door open, and you can mimic the door shutting just by getting a screwdriver or something, pushing in on that piece of mechanism there, that lock. When you do that, the window goes up because it thinks the door's shut. You can see that is now fully extended, and then if I keep it there while pushing my hand on the door handle, which would then lower the window by a couple of inches, and you can see there's the problem has occurred again, that this plunger has then gone in and the window hasn't gone down, which means it will jam against the top, and you can see it's got too much play in it because we can manually push the window down with a hand. You see that? And now the plunger's come back out again. Maybe because this part was a bit cheap. So what I'm going to have to do to stop it happening again is indeed put a screw or a pin through a little hole in this to stop it going in. We'll do that now. So hopefully you can see what I've done there. Drilled a little hole just to the left there, away from the centre of this piece of plastic, so away from the cable, because obviously you don't want to damage that. And then I'm going to put in this tiny little roll pin here, and hopefully we can push it all the way through, which will then stop the end plunger from going in, still allow it to come out. And that's that roll pin pushed through the end. And now let's just test it by fooling the lock that we're shutting the door. The window goes up, and then we press on the handle to make the window go down, and we'll just check that plunger then doesn't go in. Indeed it doesn't. That roll pin is fully stopping it, and now you will see that the window has a good clearance over the top so that it doesn't foul on the roof. So lots of clearance there now. Shut the door and the window goes up properly. Pull the handle, comes down all the way. So even if your rear window cables are good, that's probably a useful modification to do to make the window come down better. One more useful thing to do is to make sure this cable basically goes to this side of the window, so when the window comes down it can get trapped underneath it, and so a good thing to do would be to put a cable tie between this cable and this electrical cable to keep it to be the inside side of the window. After that, we just got to reassemble everything, put this shield to keep condensation out back on. It probably needs to tape it in place and push on and rebolt on the interior cover. When fitting the back cover, you just got to make sure that these little bits of plastic fit together. There's several of them across the top, and they just need pushing down into their slots. And then just check these little studs go in the plastic holdings that are lined up and you haven't got any tape showing, and then give it a whack to fit it back. And there's bolts along the bottom. What are you doing? And that's your rear window fixed. If you've got a broken cable, or just if the window doesn't come down properly. Good luck with yours, and thanks for watching. Bye.